Whether you like Harbor Freight or you hate them, some of their tools are actually useful. So here are 10 more Harbor Freight tools that I recommend. And they did not sponsor us for this video. First up is the Harbor Freight Dust Collector. This thing has worked great for about 2 years without any issues or hiccups. It's great for moving dust from the tools or just turning it on and help purify the air in the shop. The inlet for the dust has a nice Y inlet, so I can hook up as many as 2 hoses here, and the on-off switch is real easy access right here in the front. Now, one of the upgrades I would make for this setup is upgrading the bag filter. This right here does not filter out the real fine particles, so I upgraded one from Amazon. To collect the dust, I'm currently using some flexible hose that runs up to some rigid PVC at my ceiling, and that PVC currently runs all throughout my shop. Now, this is a 15 amp unit, so I definitely recommend a dedicated circuit. So if you're looking for a good starter dust collection system, I would highly recommend this one. In fact, I don't ever plan on upgrading this unless it dies, and from what I understand from other people, this lasts many, many years, so I'll probably have it for a long time. Next up, I'd suggest the low profile creeper. For those of you who like to do your own maintenance on your own vehicles at your house, this thing will work great for you. There's no need to go out and buy one of those $100+ brands. Just get one of these. This is actually my second one. The first one, well, here's a quick story, is I was working on my truck. I was getting everything done and I tidied up and I jumped in my truck to move it and I heard crunch and I knew exactly what just happened. I drove completely over my creeper. Now, it was still somewhat usable, but it dragged really bad, so I ran out real quick, bought a second one, and I've been using it ever since. These are also great if you want to have a little fun with your kids. If you do a bunch of power sanding, whether it's with an orbital sander, belt sander, drum sander, I'd strongly suggest buying these little sanding cleaner blocks. These are great to go over your sandpaper and make them last a lot longer and just be a lot more efficient. Let me show you. Now that sandpaper is going to do a lot better. Much nicer. And since we were talking about sanding, let's talk about sandpaper. You can get large packs of sandpaper relatively inexpensively at Harbor Freight. Now, these right here are the Warrior brand, and I've been told they're going to be changing them over to the Hercules brand and clearancing these out. So, keep an eye out for these on clearance. You might be able to get an even better deal. Otherwise, get some of the sandpaper for some basic needs. Now, if you are a professional and you need to do large areas that real fine, everything has to be perfect sanding, these might not necessarily be for you, but for just basic home sanding and simple projects around the house, these will work great. Now, if you're using this for any real heavy duty use, the paper on the back of these are not real thick. So what I would suggest is maybe taking a piece of tape or something and putting on the back of this and making it a lot thicker and stronger, and these will work for those rougher areas. Not only do just regular sandpaper work, but they sell their sanding belts. This right here is a bow sander that I actually made out of this 3x21 sanding belt. Actually cut it in half and made a homemade handle that this fits right over, and I can use this around some of those curved areas that I need to be real gentle on. So keep an eye out for these as well. Now, if you have an oscillating tool, you might want to consider Harbor Freight for some of the oscillating accessories. They have a large variety that can fit most brands. Now, I purchased a little sander tool recently, and it works great getting into those corners, and of course you can just buy your standard blades there as well. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. You can sometimes find a little bit better deal on these on Amazon than you would actually in the store. But keep in mind that you may have to wait 2 or more days to actually get those. And if you're in a pinch and you need those tools right now, you should be able to run into the store and grab them. Now, I just recently checked my local store and they had a nice variety of these still in stock, so keep those in mind. Now, if you're in a DIY space, of course, you're going to be using your drill a lot to drill out and pre-drill your holes. In those cases, I usually go out and grab the larger packs of drill bits. These are great and just have different varieties from the major hardware stores. The only problem with these is I have a tendency to break off the smaller bits. And I particularly like the 1/8 inch size, and if I break them off, then I have to go spend anywhere from $10 if they're on sale to up to $25 for different brands just to get a couple bits that are included in these sets. That is, unless I run over to Harbor Freight and buy their individual packs. This right here is a 4-pack of 1/8 inch drill bits. Now, of course, this right here may not be the top quality drill bits, but if I have a tendency to already snap them, why not use the cheaper ones and snap those instead of having to buy the large sets? In any case, go out and get you some drill bits. Next up is a rubber mallet. These are great, of course, if you want to pound some stones into place or maybe even help position some wood. I've used this one on the car. I've used this outside. It has nicks and dings and slices and cuts all in this thing, but it continues to do the job the way I want it to be done. Now, these are relatively inexpensive at Harbor Freight, so you might want to consider these. They're for a variety of different uses, and they will last a long time if you take care of them. Have you ever wanted to put your name or letters into a project? Then you might want to consider a steel stamping set. Now, I found these both in the 1/8 and the 1/4 inch size, and each pack comes with 36 pieces with all the standard letters and numbers that you would need. Now, I first discovered these at a local fair where a lady was taking some copper pipe and she was cutting it off, hammering it flat on an anvil, and then letting children and adults come out and hammer whatever letters and numbers they wanted into their piece. That way they could have a custom little craft. Then she took these and proceeded to make them into little bracelets or little necklaces, and they would have something they could take home with them. So if you're interested in marking your projects or just creating cool little crafts, you may want to get a stamping set. Next up are these plastic ammo boxes, but they're so much more useful than just that. These are great for electronics or maybe your camera equipment or tools that you don't want to get wet. Now, to keep everything dry, right here on the top of this lid is a little rubber gasket that goes all the way around and seals on the top of this box. Now, one thing to look out for when you're buying these is a seal sometimes in a process, I'm guessing being made or being shipped, can sometimes get deformed, and so it won't create a nice seal on the top of this box. So make sure you check that out before you buy it. Now, even though these are good at keeping water out, I wouldn't suggest putting them underwater. This is probably good if it gets rained on or maybe you accidentally spill something on it. It'll keep the contents inside dry, but don't submerge it. Now, if you do a bunch of hand sawing, you should probably consider one of these 10-inch Japanese style pool saws. This has blades on each side, a rough cut over here and a finish cut over here. And that should allow you to get the cut real quickly on one side, and then if you want to make it real fine and nice, you can do that with the other. Now, if you use your blade a lot and you need a replacement blade, they're really easy to change out. Just take a screwdriver. You want to get this screw all the way out. Drop it out and the blade just slides right out, and then you can easily get replacement blades on Amazon. Now, one of the best parts about this saw is it costs 1/2 to 1/3 the price that you'd find for many of the other brands and types of these. Now, of course, this handle is not as fancy as you would find on some of them. It's just a simple rubber, but when you're using it, it does have a nice grip and a nice pull and should allow you to cut really easily. And just as a side note, I love making music with them. Now, here's a little bonus for you. I just recently purchased a couple of these 36-inch long aluminum bar clamps. Now, these are great for light duty work, but even though it says 36 inches long, it doesn't actually clamp at that. It's closer to about 32 inches, so keep that in mind. Now, of course, this being light duty, you don't want to really wrench down really hard on these, or you could possibly bend the aluminum. Now, I have been told that some people have lined the inside of these with some wood, which gives it a lot more strength and you're able to clamp down a lot harder. In any case, these work great for me and I hope they can work good for you too. Now, I hope you get a chance to use some of these tools, and if by chance you know of any others that are good and useful, please put those in the comments so we can help everybody else out. Otherwise, get on your shop and have fun building.